Okay, so Vosteed Cutlery reached out to me a few months back, and I'd never heard of them, but I decided to check them out. They wanted to send me a knife to review, and so I got the knife a few weeks ago, and I've been using it for a few weeks, and I'm ready to talk about it. But yeah, so this knife is, we're gonna get pretty deep into it, but this knife is okay. I can honestly kind of say I don't really feel one way or the other about this knife. So I've got it right in front of me, but before we do that, I want to take a look at some stuff about them online, and just kind of pick everything apart as we like to do. This is the Vosteed Morgan series chef knife. Now, Morgan, I don't know why it's called a Morgan. $59 on sale from $79. Now, this is immediately a red flag for me. I don't know if this is the always price and they're just doing this as a tactic. I will say their Santoku is the full $79, so maybe this is on sale. We also have 5-star reviews, and if you actually go to the reviews, that's all they have. That also sketches me. Super sharp. It's a knife. 3-layer of forged steel with HRC 60 plus or minus 2. Sharpened with the traditional Japanese method. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First off, super sharp. Again, it's a knife. It should be super sharp. 3-layer of forged steel. Go on. Just 3 layers of forged steel. Okay. You're not going to tell me what kind or any cladding or anything like that? No? Okay. HRC 60 plus or minus 2. That's a 4-point distribution on hardness. I've mentioned this before. 4 points is that's a big margin. It's also, we're gonna talk about this more down the page. Sharpen with the traditional Japanese method. What's that? What's the traditional Japanese method? Or are you just saying Japanese for buzzwords? Because that's how knife makers like to sell their knives. Steel composition. To achieve the best balance of value and performance, 8-inch Morgan chef knife uses 9CR 18 MOV steel. So now, I looked up 9CR steel. I actually have a page pulled up here. 9CR isn't terrible. It's not great. It's not bad. It's okay steel. It's a Chinese high-end stainless steel, high-end chromium and mid-high-end carbon. Great for corrosion resistance, mainly used for corrosion resistance demanding tools like stainless steel blades, knives, surgical blades, and cutlery. Here's where we come to another issue with that 60 plus or minus 2. We have maximum Rockwell hardness of 9CR is 58 to 60. I have a problem there with how they're rating the sharpness or the hardness, because it can't be 61 or 62. Yeah, so this is actually something I want to talk about too. So sharpening technique. We do a 2-stage sharpening process. We use the sharpening angles on traditional Japanese chef knives, and your Morgan chef's knife will have a 12-degree angle on one side and an 18-degree angle on the other side. While our devoted process takes longer to finish, the edge on your knife will be sharper and more durable than on other chef knives. In addition, we only use a low-speed sharpening technique so that the heat from the sharpening process can have enough time to be dissipated. That's fair. More heat means more likely to mess up the heat treatment, so that's okay. And, stop me if I'm wrong here. I think doing an asymmetrical bevel like this on a relatively cheap knife is pointless and honestly kind of detrimental, because you're going to have to sharpen it a little bit differently on each side, and I feel like that's not something, if you want your knife to be accessible to everybody, if you want everybody to own their knife, that this should, I don't know. I think you should either do double bevel or an actual 70-30 single bevel. counterproductive. Most folks won't be able to follow the exactly. This isn't conducive to beginners who want to learn how to sharpen on their own. People who sharpen like this wouldn't buy this knife. Exactly. This also does mean it's more of a right-handed knife. And, you know, as I mentioned before, I'm a lefty. Now, I didn't really notice a difference while I was using it, but asymmetrical edges can lead to steering if you're not paying attention. Steering meaning the knife's going to start, you know, sliding to a different angle. I think it's counterproductive to have an asymmetrical grind on a knife like this. Morgan has used a special surface treatment process to make the G10 resin laminate handle. This material is not only extra durable, but it can also be hand washed with soap and water. More importantly, when you inspect it closely, you can notice that there are small hexagon-shaped pockets on the surface which make the knife grippy and secure when your hand is wet. A special surface treatment process. You textured the handle. G10 is a pretty good choice. Yeah, I mean G10 is a solid knife handle choice. I have zero problems with G10. Cutting a notebook. This is a thing that I often do because I cut a lot of notebooks. You know, because that's a thing people normally do is cut notebooks. Length 5.11 inches handle. Resilient reinforced nylon fiber handle. Riveted construction. Just say G10, dude. Production method forged. Rockwell Hardness 58. Well. But earlier you said it was 60 plus or minus 2, and now on the same page you're telling me that it's 58. What's going on there? Get some consistency. But wait, there's another Vosteed page. Oh shit, let's look at their Kickstarter. Full tang construction, kinda. Let's talk about that in a second. And it's not actually a full tang. It's a kind of full tang. No, wait, that didn't highlight. It's a skeletonized tang. If you look right here. So, skeletonized tang, you know, they're sacrificing the fullness of the tang for, you know, to make it lighter, basically. After the heat treated and hardened to 59 to 60, there we are again with a different hardness rating. So, we have our Vosteed Morgan box. So, take it off. I'm gonna just throw that there. My desk is a mess, as enough as it is. And in the box, we have, can you focus for me? There we go. A Vosteed keychain for some reason. And on the back it says, "Let's make knife great." So, yeah, I mean the box is nice, and that's always a plus. It also comes with a blade guard. It's actually a pretty nice blade guard. Props to them for that. We have some literature here. So we've got that, and then this, which is basically, you know, what we looked at on the website. Okay, so we have the actual knife. The knife itself, I think, for the most part, is mostly aesthetically pleasing. I overall like the design of the knife. It's remarkably light. It's a super light knife. The problem is that it almost feels cheap. I like light knives, but yeah, something about the lightness of this knife feels cheap. This fake hamon, this like etched line right here, which is typically the mark of a differentially hardened knife. This is not that. This is just very clearly like etched with a laser or something. And then we have this giant, like the branding on this is huge to the point where it's kind of unattractive. Yeah, plus it's super textured on there. I mentioned this in the past. I don't really like textured branding on knives. Just print it on there. We've got our G10 handle. It's not really as textured as they say it is. And then this pommel right here that's textured in. I could take it or leave it. At a pinch grip, I mean, yeah, the knife is... They said it was perfectly balanced at the pinch point. It's definitely slightly handle heavy. But overall, like, it still feels good to hold. You know, we've shit on the knife a little bit so far, but it's not uncomfortable, and that's a huge thing for me that I put over a lot of other things. Is the knife comfortable? Does it feel okay to hold? This feels okay to hold. It's out of box sharpness is impressive. It's screaming sharp out of the box. The problem is, I found the knife wedging on some stuff, like an onion and, you know, some potatoes and things like that. The knife wedges a little bit too easily. It kind of takes you away from using the knife when you're having to add additional force. And I think part of that's coming from the lightness of the knife. Because the knife is so light and it's meant to be a workhorse, there's no weight helping push through the food you're cutting. I think this has potential to be like a halfway decent knife, but it needs to be a little bit heavier. Really what it boils down to is the knife worth it? Well, at $80, absolutely not. I could not recommend this knife for $80. Now, at its sale price of $60, or I'm sorry, $59, maybe. You know, if you like the design, sure, but I can honestly say I don't have a ton of experience with knives in this price range. You've got our endorsement of the Fibrox in chat, which I've heard nothing but good things about, and I might be inclined to, even without using it, just based on reputation alone, recommend that over this. I don't think this knife isn't worth buying, but I certainly don't think it's worth buying at the price. Apologies to Vosteed, because the person that I talked to that sent me the knife, they've been super nice, and they clearly care a lot and want the knife to do well, but I really can't put an endorsement on this knife. So yeah, that's my take on the Vosteed Morgan. So hey, like the video and subscribe. And why am I doing this with my hands? And look at that, there's all the Patreon homies. See that? I'm doing a scroll, chat. There's gonna be a scroll and post with all the Patreon homies. Yeah, that about does it. Love you all. I'll see you soon.